Do you think the world of your video game is just pixels and code? What if the princess you're protecting, or the ruthless warlord you're fighting, suddenly shattered the screen and stepped into your bedroom? Today's story follows a boy who stumbles upon a cursed, ancient artifact, a portal that bridges his mundane life with a brutal, ancient empire. The game is over, and the real war has just begun. The screen erupts with the cold, ruthless ambition of Marin. He's a warlord with a singular, terrifying vision. Force Princess Sulin of China into a marriage that would cement his grip on absolute power. But Sulin is no pawn. The moment she unmasks his true, blood-soaked intentions, she slams the door on his dreams. Enraged, Marin's mercy evaporates. He abandons her in the heart of the wild, issuing a chilling decree to his army, a massive bounty for the one who brings him the princess's head. The hunt begins. The wilderness descends into chaos as the world's most lethal assassins turn on each other, tearing through the forest to claim their prize. Sulin is cornered, broken, and ready to accept the end. But just as hope flickers out, the biting wind shifts. A stranger arrives. A lone warrior, blade drawn, slides off his horse and carves through the mercenaries like a scythe through wheat. Sulin breathes a sigh of relief, thinking she's been saved, but the reprieve is short-lived. A new wave of killers crashes in, only to be dismantled with surgical precision by this mystery protector. Just as he reaches for her hand, the ground seems to tremble. Out of the shadows emerges the ultimate predator, a hulking, unstoppable executioner. The two warriors clash in a blur of violence. Our hero quickly realizes he is outmatched, taking a brutal kick that leaves him gasping for air. The Titan swings a bamboo staff, but with a lightning-fast strike, the hero cleaves it in two. It seems like the end, but in a final, desperate gamble of wit over brawn, the hero outsmarts the brute, delivering a lethal blow that finally secures the prince's safety. But then, the cinematic frame shatters. We aren't in ancient China anymore, we're in a cluttered bedroom. This was all just a video game. Jack, the boy behind the controller, frantically scrambles to kill the game and fake a study session just seconds before his mom walks in. Annie isn't fooled, though. She knows her son too well. She isn't here to lecture, but the weight in her voice is heavy with reality. She needs him to focus. Without a scholarship, the dream of college is dead, and the family is drowning. The last 6 months have been a ghost town for sales, and the pressure is mounting. Jack promises to turn it around, but the real world is far harsher than any digital battlefield. Out on his bike, he's ambushed by local bullies who make his life a living hell, forcing him to flee into the sanctuary of Mr. Chan's shop. Mr. Chan sighs, watching the boy struggle, urging him to show some of the fire he displays in his games. But Jack knows better. Real life doesn't come with an extra life or a restart button. He's just one kid against a gang, and he's tired of being the punching bag. As he tries to lose himself in his part-time work, clearing artifacts from the shelves, he stops cold. His eyes lock onto a massive, ancient pot. Chan insists that because Jack has been such a dedicated worker, he wants to gift him this pot. It's an heirloom, preserved for centuries by Chan's ancestors. But since Chan is the last of his line, he wants to pass it on to the next generation. Jack initially refuses. The antiquity of the piece is intimidating. But when Chan tells him never to look a gift horse in the mouth, he accepts. Jack brings the pot home, treating it like any other antique, even tossing some clothes inside before falling asleep. But that night, the pot begins to pulsate with an ethereal, unnatural light. In the dead of night, Jack wakes to the cold, sharp bite of a blade against his throat. A mysterious warrior looms over him, demanding to know the whereabouts of the Black Knight. Terrified, Jack reaches for his phone, but the stranger obliterates it with a single, brutal swing of his sword. Jack stammers, realizing the man is asking about the character from his video game, and confesses, "I'm the Black Knight." But only in the game. The warrior stares at him, stunned, as if observing an alien artifact. Jack desperately tries to demonstrate, firing up the game, but the warrior sees no magic in the screen. He leans in, his command absolute. Until the Black Knight returns, you must protect the Empire's most sacred treasure. Before Jack can process the insanity, a girl materializes right there in his living room. He tries to reach out to offer a greeting, but the warrior barks a warning. If he touches the princess, his head will be the price. It's an ironclad law, a mandate from a world he doesn't understand. With that, the warrior vanishes into thin air. Jack is left reeling, struggling to grasp how his life shifted from a mundane struggle to a literal war zone. He stares at the girl, wondering if he's trapped in a fever dream, but the reality is cold and concrete. She introduces herself as Sulin and demands food. Jack realizes with a sinking dread that they aren't actors. They are flesh and blood pulled straight from the code of his game, all thanks to that cursed pot. Sulin orders him to fetch roasted snails and duck, a royal feast. If he fails, the warrior's threat of execution rings in his ears, leaving him no choice. He scrambles to the kitchen, only to find the cupboard bare, nothing but bread and butter. Meanwhile, Sulin explores his room, mesmerized by the strange artifacts of the modern world. She finds his headphones, the music spilling out in a way she's never experienced, but her curiosity turns clumsy as she accidentally shatters the device. When Jack returns with whatever food he could scrounge, he finds her fast asleep. But as he stands there, the warning echoes in his mind. Touch the princess and you die. He stands paralyzed. Jack spends the night watching her, lost in a trance, convinced that this ethereal dream will vanish the moment the sun hits his window. But when he wakes, reality crashes back in. He finds Sulin in the backyard, weaponless but deadly, practicing her combat forms with terrifying precision. He rushes out, panicked, begging her to get inside just as his mom appears. Jack plays the frantic gatekeeper, blocking the window and shielding his mom's view, his nervous behavior sparking a flicker of suspicion in Annie's eyes. She eventually shrugs it off and heads to work, giving Jack just enough breathing room to drag Sulin back inside. But Sulin isn't some guest he can control. She's a princess, and her natural default is command, not compliance. The tension spikes when the doorbell rings. It's Hector, Jack's friend. He bursts in, sees Sulin, and instantly assumes she's Jack's new girlfriend. Before Jack can even choke out a warning, Hector moves in for a friendly greeting. Sulin doesn't hesitate. With one fluid, brutal motion, she sends him crashing to the floor. Don't touch the princess isn't just a suggestion, it's a death sentence. Jack has to intervene, pulling her aside to lay down the law. In your world, you can kill whoever you want, but this is my world, and you have to play by my rules. Sulin reluctantly agrees, but her curiosity about this strange, modern land is insatiable. She steps out onto the street, immediately turning heads. Her regal bearing and archaic dress mark her as an anomaly, and the local stares are turning into gawking. Jack realizes this is a disaster. She can't walk around like a historical relic. Fine, Sulin replies with royal indifference. Summon the tailor. Jack, hiding a smirk, realizes he has to explain that modern people don't use tailors, they use malls. At the shopping center, Sulin goes on a spree, stuffing bags with expensive clothes as if the concept of payment doesn't apply to royalty. Her attention is soon hijacked by a girl eating ice cream, a bizarre, frozen delight she's never encountered. She demands one, and Jack, terrified that a single royal complaint will bring that warrior back to end his life, obediently gives in to every whim. The chaos peaks when they stumble upon a group of street dancers. Sulin, mistaking their rhythm for a challenge, begins to mimic them, weaving her lethal martial arts movements into something that looks suspiciously like a dance. The crowd goes wild, oblivious to the fact that she's essentially practicing how to break bones. Jack barely manages to drag her away before a scene ensues. Back home, he manages to convince his mom that Sulin is just a school friend, but the lie is fragile. Sulin's behavior is anything but normal, and Jack is trapped in a web of frantic excuses. The silver lining arrives in the form of a 2-day business trip for Annie. With his mom out of the house, Jack finally has a moment to breathe, though the tension inside is just getting started. That night, as Jack chats with Hector, Sulin wanders into his room, declaring that the guest bed is impossible to sleep in and she's taking his. Jack is paralyzed, terrified that a single accidental touch will trigger her lethal instincts, so he hunkers down elsewhere, trying to keep his distance. The next morning, Jack wakes to the familiar sound of steel slicing the air. Sulin is back at her training, but this time, Jack doesn't stop her. He's preoccupied with seeing his mom off, unaware of the storm brewing on his front porch. The second Annie pulls away, a blade digs into Jack's throat. A soldier demands the princess. Sulin emerges, and the living room turns into a battlefield. She's a blur of motion, dismantling the attackers with cold, calculated violence. But they just keep coming. Jack tries to step up, his hands trembling, but a soldier catches him, tossing him through a window. He hits the pavement hard, bruised and desperate. Dragging himself back inside, He finds the room empty. Sulin is gone. He follows the echo of a sound to the ancient pot. They vanished back into the portal. Without a second thought, Jack leaps into the vessel. He tumbles down, the world warping around him until he slams into the ground of an ancient, war-torn China. He's caught in a time loop, face to face with Lee, the warrior from before. "I told you not to let her out of your sight," Lee growls. "You're useless." Jack tries to defend himself, insisting she was right behind him, but Lee refuses to let him wander. When Jack ignores him, trying to find his own way, he's swarmed by hostiles. Lee bails him out just in time, but Jack is done. "This isn't my fight," he shouts. "I have homework to finish." He lunges for the portal, but it's dead. The teleportation won't trigger. Panic sets in. He's trapped in a world of blades and blood, potentially forever. Lee explains the mechanics of the void. The wizard holds the key, but he's currently in a deep, forbidden slumber. Jack moves to wake him, but Lee warns him off. Waking the master is a crime punishable by immediate beheading. Suddenly, the enemies breach their defenses. Lee fights for his life, but the sheer numbers are overwhelming. He screams at Jack to cut a nearby rope, and as the gate slams shut, the wizard stirs. With a flick of his wrist, the mage freezes the entire army in place. As Jack stares at the wizard, the pieces snap together. He recognizes the face. It's a direct match to the portrait of Mr. Chan's ancestors hanging in the back of the shop. Jack begs the wizard to send him home, but the old man shakes his head. It's not that simple. The pot was crafted from 4 sacred woods, now scattered to the corners of this dying empire. Only by reclaiming them can the vessel be restored and the gateway reopened. But before they can even think about the shards, they have to find Sulin. Jack, desperate to make sense of this insanity, turns to Lee. The wizard speaks for him. Lee is one of the 7, an elite guard sworn to the Emperor's bloodline. Stolen from their mothers as children, they were forged into weapons by a monk, their only purpose to stand as an impenetrable wall between the ruler and his enemies. But the tyrant Marin didn't fight them fairly. He poisoned their rations. Lee was delayed, the only survivor of the massacre. When he finally reached the palace, he found his brothers in arms dead and the Emperor executed by Marin's own hand. Since that day, the tyrant has ground the people into the dirt, turning the kingdom into a prison. Lee tried to fight, but he was just one man against an army. He needed a hero, and in the chaos of his desperation, he found Jack. Jack shrinks back, haunted by his own insecurity. He's just a kid, not a warrior. But the wizard sees deeper. "You aren't here by accident," he says, his voice cutting through the doubt. With that, they set out into the wild, an unlikely duo on a mission to save a kingdom. Meanwhile, inside his iron fortress palace, Marin sits on a stolen throne, his patience wearing thin. When a scout arrives with news that Lee is alive and encroaching on his territory, Marin calls for blood. But his right-hand brute, Brutus, executes the messenger on the spot. Marin's fury explodes. He wanted the info, not a corpse. He warns Brutus to keep his blade sheathed until he gives the order. Back in the shadows of the woods, Jack and Lee map out their path. They have to stop the forced marriage, or Marin will usurp the throne, execute Sulin, and cement his rule forever. In a rare moment of vulnerability, Jack asks if Sulin has a suitor, someone she actually cares for. Lee dismisses the thought. She doesn't need a suitor. She needs a warrior, someone fearless, someone unbreakable. Jack deflates, the reality hitting him hard. He's soft, he's scared, and he's clearly not the man she deserves. Tired and shivering, Jack asks for a blanket. Lee offers no comfort, simply kicking a massive, jagged rock toward him. "That's your pillow," he grunts. As Jack tries to find rest on the cold stone, miles away, Marin's mood darkens as he surveys the meager haul of 16 slaves. Not nearly enough to satisfy his hunger for conquest. He demands to know who is responsible for the oversight, and in a flash of reflex, Brutus executes the man standing before him. Marin, frustrated, snaps at his henchman. "I know you're trying to please me, Brutus, but wait for my signal." He demonstrates a subtle nod, a lethal cue, and makes it clear that Brutus is to act only when ordered. Their tense conversation is interrupted as the kidnapped Sulin is dragged in, her eyes burning with defiance. Marin is intoxicated by his prize, but Sulin's cold hatred is palpable before she is hauled away. Meanwhile, Jack wakes to a strange sight. Lee sitting in a corner, shielding himself with a large metal plate. When Jack asks what's happening, Lee calmly mentions that it's about to rain. Jack looks up, confused. The sky is crystal clear. Moments later, a literal rain of arrows descends, forcing Jack to dive for cover. This is their daily reality, an endless barrage of ambushes aimed at Lee. When Jack accuses him of keeping him in the dark, Lee hands him a map. "You can go," Lee says, his voice flat. "I didn't force you into the portal. This is your choice." But Jack, despite his fear and the realization that he is miles out of his depth, stays put. Back at the palace, Marin is spiraling. Another scout arrives with news that Lee has survived yet again. The messenger knows the fate of bad news, but Marin's signaling with Brutus becomes a comedic nightmare of incompetence. Marin nods, stares, and gestures, but Brutus stands there like a statue, completely missing the mark. Finally, losing all patience, Marin bellows, "You idiot! Kill him!" And Brutus finally swings his blade. As they travel, Jack learns the depth of Lee's isolation. The warrior has spent his entire existence as a shield for the throne, possessing no life outside of duty. In a moment of human connection, Jack tries to break through the armor, gifting Lee his sunglasses and teaching him a few awkward dance moves. Lee actually cracks a smile, enjoying the absurdity until he snaps back to his reality. Warriors don't dance. Their journey leads them to a secluded clearing where a witch is calmly brewing soup over a fire. Lee tries to negotiate her departure, but she refuses to budge until her potatoes are done. When Lee moves to force her hand, she erupts in fury. She vanishes into thin air, her voice echoing from everywhere and nowhere. Suddenly, she lunges, sending Lee tumbling toward a deathly drop. Jack doesn't hesitate. He hurls a piece of enchanted wood at the witch, and she vanishes in a burst of scorching flames. With the immediate threat gone, Jack heads deeper into the forest to gather firewood, leaving Lee alone for the first time. The warrior finally lets his guard down. He starts testing the dance moves Jack taught him, using the croaking of frogs as a makeshift beat, letting his body flow with a rhythm that contradicts everything he's ever stood for. But the moment he hears Jack approaching, he snaps back into his stoic, warrior persona. He won't let the boys see this hidden side of him. Jack is feeling the weight of their journey. "We're walking into death every single day," he says. "Teach me some martial arts. I don't need to be a master, I just need to survive." Lee tries to explain that true combat is a lifelong dedication, not a weekend workshop, but he eventually relents, agreeing to teach Jack one singular, effective maneuver. They eventually reach the banks of a massive, roiling river, the gateway to Marin's fortress. Lee stares at the current, dead set on trekking for days to find a bridge. Jack is baffled. "Why walk when we can swim?" he asks. Lee shuts him down immediately, insisting it's too dangerous. Jack presses him. "Are there man-eating fish? Poisonous snakes?" Lee denies it all, his pride struggling to surface. Finally, the truth slips out. The legendary warrior, the man who has slaughtered hundreds, doesn't know how to swim. Jack bursts into hysterical laughter, unable to process the irony. But there's no time for embarrassment. Jack promises to teach him. With some coaxing, Lee enters the water, and against all odds, they paddle across the current together. Once on the other side, they face the fortress, guarded by a legion of soldiers. Lee lays out a plan. He'll infiltrate the perimeter, evade the personal guard, and snatch the princess. It sounds like a masterpiece until Jack asks how he intends to pull it off. Lee pauses, he has absolutely no idea. They decide to skip the finesse and simply surrender, walking right into the heart of the enemy's nest. It's an absurd tactic, but it works. They are hauled directly before Marin. The tyrant is stunned. He's set to marry Sulin the next day, and he orders them both to be hanged as soon as the ceremony concludes. Jack is terrified, the gravity of his mortality crushing him. But fate shifts that night when Brutus enters with their meager rations. The second the guard tilts the bowl, Lee strikes like a viper, knocking him unconscious. They bolt from the cell, plunging into the labyrinthine halls of the fortress. A guard stands watch outside Sulin's chamber, but he's no match for Jack's newfound confidence. Jack steps up, throwing a few amateur kung fu poses that are more rhythm than combat. When the guard advances, Jack bolts, leading the commotion straight into a trap. As the soldiers swarm toward the prince's quarters, Jack keeps a steady count, signaling Lee. On cue, Lee hacks away at the floorboards, creating a minefield of holes. The guards crash through the wood, collapsing in a heap of broken limbs and bruised egos. Seeing the fortress gate unguarded, they scramble for horses, eyes locked on freedom. But just as they clear the threshold, their path is blocked. They're completely surrounded. Capture is inevitable, but this time the treatment is eerily soft. The guards deliver fine food and company, a last supper before their scheduled execution at dawn. Jack is spiraling, paralyzed by the looming end, until a butterfly flutters into the cell. Lee begins to speak to it, and for a terrifying moment, Jack thinks the stress has finally snapped the warrior's mind. Meanwhile, a dark, spectral magic seeps through the halls, incapacitating the guards and slipping into the prince's veins. The next morning, the noose is tightened around their necks, and they are forced to watch the wedding ceremony. But as Marin leans in to lift the veil and place the ring, he recoils in horror. The creature beneath isn't the princess, but a terrifying, monstrous transformation. Pandemonium erupts. The wizard reveals himself, the mastermind behind the chaos, and strikes the air, imbuing Jack with a surge of mystical energy. With a superhuman leap, Jack vaults directly to Sulin's side. As they fight through the guards' ranks, the wizard lifts the curse, and Sulin reverts to herself. Jack isn't just a boy anymore. He's a warrior in training, but he's bleeding out of time. The wizard hurls a handful of magical particles to turn the tide, but in the heat of the moment, he mixes in a volatile batch. Jack sprays them at Brutus, but instead of vanishing, the brute swells into a towering, hulking monster, smashing stone to dust. Lee tries to hold him back, but the raw power is overwhelming. Desperate, Jack and Sulin leap onto a catapult. Jack fumbles with the knot, his fingers trembling, until Lee slashes the rope. The machine fires, launching them into the sky safely over the fortress walls. Marin is apoplectic. A nobody has just stolen his bride and humiliated his army. When Jack regains consciousness, Sulin is missing. He tracks her to a familiar clearing, only to find her bound. As he moves to rescue her, Marin descends like a thunderclap. The tyrant is a whirlwind of steel, and Jack is barely holding on. His sword is knocked away, leaving him defenseless. He grabs a shard of bamboo, desperate and out of options. Suddenly, the memory of his game flickers to life. The exact same setup, the same fatal opening. Jack executes the move with perfect precision, vaulting through the air and driving the bamboo into Marin's throat. The tyrant drops, dead before he hits the dirt. Order is restored. Sulin is crowned the new empress, the weight of her kingdom finally resting on her shoulders. As Jack prepares to return home, Lee approaches, relaying a final request. The queen wants to see him one last time. Sulin is torn, longing to go with him, but the crown is a cage she cannot leave. She kisses him, a farewell etched in memory before he steps away. But as Jack emerges, the guards spot the royal mark on his lips. Realizing he has touched the empress, their expressions shift from respect to lethal fury. Jack doesn't wait to explain. He turns and sprints, the entire Imperial Guard on his heels. Jack sprints for his life, his heart hammering against his ribs as he reaches the wizard, screaming for the portal to open. But the air turns razor sharp. Lee is standing there, his blade pressed firmly against Jack's throat. "I told you," Lee says, his voice cold as ice. "No one touches the queen. You broke the law and the price is your head." Jack freezes, every muscle locking in terror, until Lee's expression breaks into a grin. "Relax, kid. I'm just messing with you. You scare way too easily." He shoves Jack toward the shimmering gate just as the guards crest the hill, but in the chaotic escape, the pot shatters into dust. The bridge between worlds is gone forever. Back in reality, Jack settles into the rhythm of high school, but he's a ghost of the boy he once was. The bullies try to intimidate him, but they don't stand a chance. Jack doesn't flinch. He's been trained by a legend, and he carries that steel in his eyes. A spark of inspiration hits him, and he begins to channel his journey into a game concept. Months of sleepless nights culminate in a masterpiece that he sells to a major gaming studio for a fortune. He walks home to find his mom, Annie, breaking down in the living room. The bank is closing in, the loan is in default, and the dream of college has slipped away. Without a word, Jack places a $25,000 check on the table. The weight of the world lifts, and for the first time in forever, their future is secure. But even with success, the silence of his room feels hollow. He misses the chaos, the danger, and the princess. One afternoon, standing in an ice cream line, the world seems to fade away. A familiar voice drifts through the air, and Jack spins around. There she is, Sulin. Her face lights up, and Jack's breath hitches. It turns out the Empress had been busy rewriting the laws of her empire, mandating a day off every week just to bridge the impossible gap between their worlds. As they share a smile, the camera pans to the ancient palace, where Lee is currently leading a group of stoic royal guards through a perfectly choreographed dance routine. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Feel free to check out my other videos as well. You might find something you love.